6, of course, the number of Premier League titles. It will not be 7. Will it be take one heck of a comeback for it to be 7 come the end of this season as it finishes? Liverpool 2, Manchester City 0. Let's take a look at what that means then. What a weekend for Liverpool then. They sit 9 points clear of Arsenal and Chelsea. Manchester City down to 5th in the table, 11 points now adrift of Arne Slot's side. To be fair, this game kind of played out as we expected it to, considering the form of both of these teams going into this tie.
Yeah. And in fact, you know, for time purposes, we couldn't, but you could have shoehorned another 7 or 8 Liverpool chances in that highlight. Good ones. Luis Diaz was through twice in the first half and had poor touches. And, you know, leading up to this game, one of the things I said last week was, for the first time Guardiola's gone into Liverpool, I think losing sleep about getting battered. You know, because they've always taken, both teams have taken the game to each other. Open, but, you know, gloves are off, see who wins. It's not, I'm not, you know, just throwing this out there. If we were sitting here now talking about Liverpool having beaten them by at least 5, wouldn't be shocked. No. I wouldn't be shocked. And for all the questions we had about Liverpool and the change in manager at the start of the season, and they haven't played anybody, and the fixture list has been good to them, that's long gone. It was long gone a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it is long gone. They were absolutely finishing apart.
Yes,
they were absolutely magnificent.
What made them so good today, Stephen? What impressed you in particular?
I think it would be easier to say there was not one facet of the game where they were anything other than superb. Other than that one mistake by Van Dijk that let De Bruyne in, going forward, they pressed the life out of. You always hear me talking about Liverpool teams in the past strangling the life out of the opposition. That's what they did in the first half. I don't remember a game of this size with 2 teams going for a title to be so one-sided in the first half. It was actually, it wasn't Man City. This was Liverpool against the team at the bottom of the table. That was so one-sided, it was scary. Now, the only problem is, as Craig said, the fact that it was 1-0, there was no way the second half was going to be the same. Also, they were going against the Cop in the first half, so it was always going to be a little different. But they've gone about it in a completely different manner. They shut up shop. And at no stage did I think that Man City were going to score. You know, yes, I did text you when he missed that chance, Salah, to make it 2-0, that football has a habit, regardless of how good you are, of kicking you in the teeth. Just when you least expect it. That's what was going through my mind when I texted you. But actually, no, they saw it out and with composure and in style. So I couldn't have dreamt as a Liverpool fan that Liverpool were going to be so good, but I couldn't have dreamt they were going to be so dominant, because this was certainly for 45 one-sided big time.
How many saves did Kelleher make?
1. Well, the mistake, wasn't it? That was it pretty much. The mistake towards the end when Van Dijk gave it away.
That was just pure casualness from Van Dijk.
Yeah.
Who they didn't have to do a lot of defending, but when he did, I mean, he's back at his best, isn't he?
What did Haaland do today?
Yeah.
Well,
one thing I didn't like about it, but I didn't like anything about City's performance really, but I didn't like Erling Haaland he seemed to be a little bit jokey with a few of the Liverpool players.
That was interesting, him and Salah, wasn't it? After Salah scored the penalty and he was joking, I was thinking, hey, Ronnie Moran wouldn't like that.
Well, he did, but he had more than that. It was 3 of them. He was doing the same with Szoboszlai.
Well, he had a couple teammates with him, I think, in Austria, but he was almost a little blasé. Do you remember the City players laughing at Tottenham
in the Carabao Cup?
In the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
And we were like at the time thinking, well, yeah, they probably don't need the Carabao Cup because they've got all these other things they're fighting for now. And I don't know, that kind of attitude maybe just seeping through a little bit. And I didn't like him smirking today as if it was some sort of pre-season friendly game at Anfield. They were getting whopped, getting totally outplayed. But to go back, I mean, Liverpool at the moment is just every facet, as Stevie said, is great. But I remember us having a conversation over the last 18 months, maybe between 12 and 18 months or 24 months ago, when you were really worried about the midfield.
Yep.
You know, the engine room.
Yes.
You know, the legs. that midfield now, whether it's Curtis Jones coming in and Szoboszlai, who has been a little bit off colour this year but was brilliant today, with Gravenberg and McAllister. McAllister's a great, I mean, a few slack passes, but he's a very good player. And Gravenberg has been the big story, isn't he? But that is an engine room now. That is the hub of everything that's going on.
It's the exact opposite to City's midfield.
Correct. And you're playing little balls into each other in midfield. They can lay it back. Somebody's always within 10 or 15 yards. They can lay it back. They've got to always get little triangles to play. Then they go forward, and then they get men up in support. And as Stevie said, they press and they work hard. Gravenberg taking the ball under pressure. There's a booking for one of his great turns. That midfield now is terrific. But as I think the interviewer said to Arne Slot after the game, and Stevie mentioned it there, is they can skin a cat 2 or 3 ways, Liverpool. Right. They are not one-dimensional. It is not hell for leather, the crowd's behind us, just leaving themselves open. They sat in, they countered in the end, they were brilliant on the front foot at the start, they pass it well, the defence is defending fantastically well, they can make changes in the front line, and whoever comes in, when fit or when available, generally makes a difference. And I think if we sat here at the start of the season and said Liverpool are going to be in this position and be big favourites to win the league now, which they are, there's no way City are going to peg this back in this form. Not a chance. Arsenal, they're looking strong, but it's a tall task. This is an unbelievable position for Arne Slot and this Liverpool team to be in, and just incredible.
We shouldn't forget, Arne Slot has got everything right so far. I mean, I didn't expect Diaz to be centre forward today.
Right.
I certainly didn't expect Kwanzaa coming on and playing right back. I mean, the timing of all the changes. He brings Núñez on, who's involved in the goal. I mean, every single decision that he made and has made this whole season, he has got every single one spot on, no question.
Let's talk about City, because if you look at the starting 11, it's not that bad, is it? It's not a team that you think, wow, they're going to get rolled over easily here at Anfield. And I know Rodri's missing, but you look at that, there's enough talent, enough quality, surely, within this side to put up a better fight than what we saw.
But you know, the midfield now is if you've got a weak midfield, and Gundogan's not the player he was when he left Man City. Bernardo Silva is cutting a very frustrated figure. Foden's been off form. Rico Lewis has come in there and he's tried to do a job, but he's physically pretty weak for the middle of the park. And the amount of space that they're leaving is just incredible. They don't know which way to play against teams like Liverpool or the bigger teams. What were they doing today? They didn't press, they didn't set off. They were somewhere in between. And I think that, at no point did they really press Liverpool, and at no point did they set off when the first 20 minutes was going against them and said, all right, let's get everybody back in and let's just make it difficult.
So is it down to Pep? The game plan's not there?
I think it's I think it is down to players that are out. There's no doubt about that. But everybody's got injuries. But the legs in the team to play the way they've played for the 5 or 6 years he's been there are just not there at the moment. And you saw the difference when the pace came on from Savinho and particularly Doku. Now, the end product wasn't great, but they had a bit more pace on their side. But they're a difficult team to figure out just how you can go from being a team that was feared to a team that has basically lost its identity, which it has. And it looks frightened. They look frightened about losing goals every time they play.
His choices are tough, though. You look at that team. I mean, we're looking at Núñez on one side and Lewis on the other side of Haaland.
Yep.
And we're looking at Gundogan and Silva in the middle of the park. I mean, that is miles off Man City at their best. But yet, we're expecting them to be somewhere close to that. We all understand that we've got injuries, but we still expect a certain standard. But it's not reasonable to expect that, because you're expecting players to do things that they can't do. And unfortunately, Pep doesn't have the bench to make any changes and change that. And so the fact that they're playing against a side in Liverpool who are just at their very best, and who, I mean, Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberg, the amount of coverage that they have in their legs compared to what City are able to do. So if you're losing the middle of the park, what chance have you got? You said Haaland didn't do anything. What chance has Haaland got of doing anything?
Right.
I mean, let's face it, they still won't cross a ball for him. Even when they've had no shots, nothing, even when they get an opportunity, they still won't cross the ball. They still want to keep it. And so sometimes it's what you know that strangles you. And the fact that they are so regimented in the way they play in terms of getting in wide positions and keeping it and going backwards and then going around. When you don't have the legs, certainly without Doku and Savinho on, then how are you supposed to beat your opposition? It wasn't until they made those changes that they actually looked as though they might create something. But then, as I said earlier, manager got it right, made the change, took Alexander-Arnold off when he was just beginning to flail, and Quansah came on and shut it down.
But you don't need. But the other side to that is the lack of physicality in legs are less of a problem, or should be, when Manchester City can keep the ball.
Right.
Which they are now struggling at against the better teams. I mean, they'll keep it against most of the weaker sides, like they did against Feyenoord in midweek until they imploded. But they were heavy in favour in terms of the possession stats. But if they could at least have kept the ball today and took the sting out of Liverpool, then that's at least goes some way to balancing out the players that are out. But they can't even do that now. And Liverpool pressed them and they just panicked. And they were giving it away, and then it was coming back, and it was coming back. So every facet of the game, their defending has been very suspect, and there were some changes today. Their passing and ball retention is nowhere near as good as it was, and they're not creating as many chances. They're just not.
The psychological swing, though, when you're in that situation that City are in, is that you're not as confident, you're not as slick, you're not as sharp, you're thinking all the time. You know, we spoke about Amorim last week, talking about United, overthinking. When you're not confident, you're thinking because you're trying to make sure, as opposed to playing. And when you're playing the opposition, regardless of whether it's Liverpool or anybody else this season, they understand that you're struggling. And so they're getting right in your face.
They got a boost as well.
Well, previously what you would do against City was you were stuck with if you go too tight, then you're at the game. But if you stand off too far, then they'll kill you with a passing. Now, nobody's bothered with that anymore. It's, we're going to squeeze the life out of them, regardless of whether it's Liverpool, Leicester, or anybody else, because this team are vulnerable. And when teams smell it, you're in trouble.
There's a bunch of other games this season they could have lost.
Oh, yeah, well, you go through the list, don't you, obviously?
A bunch of them where they were tight, and you know, they could have. I think it's Forest next they've got.
Yeah, they got Forest, and I think Palace itself has part in the Premier League.
I mean, if you're trying to get back on the horse to get winning again, no, Forest won at Liverpool. They won yesterday. They're having a very good season by their standards, but you'd expect City the next two games to pick up at least 6 points and get going again. Can you imagine if we're still talking about them? Imagine 2 more defeats for them. And then do we get to the stage where, has he got the heart for it?
Well, that's it.
Has he got the desire for it? Yeah. I know he's signed a new contract, but is he going to chuck it when things are getting really tough? Or because if he does that, he's going to get a pile of criticism. When if he jumps ship, which I'm not suggesting he is, but he's cutting a. I mean, there's frustration, and then there's Guardiola.
Yeah. I
mean, when you're starting to almost tear the top of your head and all that, it's getting to you.
And the thing is, we haven't mentioned the backline yet. Yeah. We've been talking about the forwards, we've been talking about the midfield. That backline can't defend against anybody. Again, forget today, all season, they haven't been able to take care of anybody.
And let's take a look then at how the bookies have things set regarding who is going to win the title. No surprise, Liverpool are your favourites now. If you got on them at the start of the season, you're very much enjoying what you've seen so far. Manchester City remain 8-1. This is what Pep had to say about their title chances.
And at the end, you are a team, like, it's fantastic. At the end, we're not far away from Arsenal or far away from the teams there, but Liverpool will win all the games in the Champions League. In the Premier League, just lost one against Nottingham Forest here. That means how good they are doing, what happened. Only we can do is accept it, congratulate them, and learn from them. But at the same time, still we are in November. We are not at the end of the season. Like many things, the decisions can be made more drastically. So I'm sitting here still defending what we defend, because this players, a group of players, gave me absolutely everything.
It would be surprising if he came out and said, look, it's over. We're not going to defend.
Well, he did say before the game they had to win.
Yep.
He's basically
is it over for City?
Yeah. I think it is for them, because I think it was Thursday we were in talking about it, and it was like, that's 11 points now. So you're looking at, for example, City would have to win every game, and Liverpool could afford to drop, basically lose 4 games, give or take, 12 points. So City are not going to win every game. I mean, Liverpool could probably, if you just take City, not Arsenal, Liverpool could probably lose, 6 or 7 games and still beat Man City.
Yes.
Because City will never, ever, they're not going to go the whole season and win every game. So that's a very good position to be in. I think there's much more chance Arsenal will put a run together. They've started already, so they might be able to put some pressure on. But on what we've seen, and particularly over the last 10 days to 2 weeks with Liverpool, they're the best side in the division at the moment. I don't think there's any doubt about that now.
Is City going to finish top 4 even, Stevie?
I'm hesitating, but I think so. I think they'll recover enough to get enough points, because what's going on behind them, it's all over the shop. Everybody around them is kind of eating each other right now. You've got to think that they'll recover to a certain standard, and they'll get more players back and get them fit and get them healthy, that they'll put some sort of run together at some stage.
They're getting in
Not a run that's going to get them anywhere near the title, but let's be honest. Right now they don't look as though they can win a game against anybody. I mean, if they don't get the players back, what are they going to do?